Hello and welcome to 𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 Serie A match day 37. So 2 games left, a lot to be decided, especially in the relegation zone. And we have a Coppa Italia winner, Dani Allegri. You mentioned me, Allegrata. Juventus won a trophy finally.
1-0. 1-0. Easy peasy. Goal in the 6 minutes. Then defending it, but they deserve it to win. I think they did the game that they should have done, and Atalanta never got going. That's the proof that Allegri, Mourinho, this type of manager, on the final, on the single game, they can still deliver it, but probably is the end of the road for Allegri. Is going to leave Juventus. It's been a bad season for them, and believe it or not, in Italy could even have 6 teams into next year Champions League. There are loads of permutations, but that means the Serie A is very interesting, is very engaging till the very end.
It's going to be very difficult. Roma needs to finish 5th and Atalanta win the Europa League, but there is a possibility. We have Fiorentina also in the conference final. So different from other leagues, still a lot to be decided in the last 2 games in the Serie A. So don't miss this video. Remember, of course, press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. And the match day starts on Friday with a very good game, Fiorentina-Napoli. Of course, Fiorentina needs to play the conference final. Not many things on stake when we are talking about the Serie A, but they beat Monza in the last game. Napoli, really poor season, really poor defending champion, keep losing. I guess not even this manager is working out. Dani lost to Bologna, conceding 2 goals in the first 10 minutes, winless in the last 5. Really, really negative for Napoli.
No clean sheets in the last 17 games for Napoli. They conceded 2 goals in 3 minutes against Bologna. Then they missed a penalty. And this is the worst streak since December 2019 when Ancelotti was then replaced by Gattuso. I wonder if they say, well, we could have kept Ancelotti just a little bit more. But anyway, Napoli away from home, they are not as bad as they were at the Maradona this season. In fact, away from home, Napoli are 4th in the table, only 1 defeat in the last 6. And now here comes the permutation. If Napoli wins and Torino loses, Napoli will qualify at least for the Conference League. Fiorentina can even finish as up as 6th because they got a game in hand, but they will secure European football of some shape and form with a win on Friday. Fiorentina, by the way, are in a good moment. They won from behind against Monza, and that was the only 3rd time they won after conceding the first goal this season. 3 wins in the last 4, as many as in the previous 14 matches. They are scoring goal with ease. They are finding easier to find the back of the net. Artur was the 18 different goal scorer this season for Fiorentina. Only Newcastle with 19 has done better in Europe. Top 5 leagues. Nico Gonzalez already in double figure. You missed half of the season because of injuries. Only 1 defeat in the last 7 for Fiorentina at the Stadio Franchi. 8 of the last 9 have been both teams to score. Of these 9 games, 7 have gone over 2.5 goals. 5 have gone over 3.5 goals. Napoli can't keep a clean sheet. Fiorentina normally scores. I think it's a both team to score, but possibly a draw. I do like Napoli on the Asian handicap plus 0.25. 175 is a draw. You get half your stake.
Well, both teams are fighting for the 8th spot in the Serie A. On Saturday, we have 2 games. Lecce, Atalanta is the first one. Lecce virtually safe. They are 5 points.
Already safe. Mathematically safe.
Okay.
Because Cagliari plays Sassuolo, so yeah, they can't. They were saved actually last week, just before the game against Udinese. They were mathematically safe. Yeah.
Okay, so mathematically safe for Atalanta is important because they still need to nail the 5th spot with the win against Roma in the direct clash last week. They got all the options to play Champions League next season. Unfortunately for them, the week was marked, of course, with the Coppa Italia final, that defeat against Juventus. Perhaps, Dani, they were a bit naive perhaps they are also the underdogs in this Europa League final against Leverkusen. It takes some time to be European or Italian royalty and win these kind of finals.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Atalanta were favorites before the final and were quite heavy favorites, probably for the first time in a final that they played, yet they lost again. And I felt they never got going. Their game plan never worked. Has to be said, they were missing 𝐿𝐭𝐴, who was suspended, and they really missed the focal point, the strong center forward, because 𝐿𝐿𝐴 and the 𝐿𝐴 struggled a lot against the physicality of Danilo and Bremer, but really Atalanta seemed to be stunned after Juventus took the lead. Atalanta did all right, but never really troubled Perin. And you're right, of course, in finals, you not only need to know how to get to them, but you need to know how to win them, how to manage them. I don't have great feelings for this game against Leverkusen, but we'll see. And of course, this game at Lecce, it's tricky for Atalanta because it's sandwiched right in between two finals. And, you know, up to last Sunday, Atalanta were flying 38 points in the last 16 games, the so-called Girone di Ritorno, 35 goals scored in Serie A, average 2.19 per game. It was second only to Inter in the last 16 games. And they were flying. They were amazing against Roma. And, you know, they should have scored 5 or 6 goals, 4 wins in a row in Serie A for Atalanta, unbeaten in 5. Only a 1 away clean sheet, though, in the last 12 away games, and that was against Empoli. So away from home, they had some struggles, of course. They only won 3 times away from home with more than a 1-goal margin, but they play a team, Lecce, that's got nothing to play for. They were already saved against Udinese, and you could tell they were already saved. They celebrated. It's a great achievement, staying 2 seasons in a row, 3 seasons in a row now in Serie A. But Lecce have lost back-to-back games only once since February with that defeat. So if they manage to lose again, that will be the second time. And back in February, they lost to Torino, Bologna, and Inter. They don't score an awful lot of goals. Lecce scored in 4 of the last 6 home games. In 2024, they only scored 6 goals at home. Worst record with Torino. So I think they are due a goal, Lecce. Unlikely they'll keep Atalanta bay, although there will be a lot of rotations. Look, this could be the surprise result of the weekend. Probably a draw. I do love the both teams to score 186.
Okay, you see a surprise in this Lecce. Atalanta, we go to the north. Torino, Milan already on holidays. Last 2 games for Pioli, but they smashed Cagliari in the last home game. Torino still with options to finish 8th and played some European football, but well, it's going to be very difficult. They beat Verona away in the last weekend.
Yeah, Torino can finish 9th even and play in the Conference League. I'm sure it will mean a lot to them, perhaps more than to Napoli, but the last game for Torino is Atalanta, so they need to get at least 4 points. It's not easy. Torino problem is that they don't score enough goals, only 6 goals at home in 2024. They score 2 at Verona after 4 games with no goals at all. Very hard to beat at home. They lost only to Inter, and Lazio kept a clean sheet in the last 9. But the last 5 games for Torino have ended 0-0 at home. In fact, they got the second worst attack, only 15 goals scored, but they are very solid, almost granitic at the back. They haven't conceded in the first half in 30 games in Serie A, which is a record. All the last 8 home games of Torino at halftime have finished 0-0. So you might want to go for a 0-0 here, but Milan numbers are completely different away from home. 72% of their away games have ended with both teams to score. Yes, they got the second best attack away from home, but only 5 teams have conceded more goals on the road than Milan. Milan have conceded 29 goals on the road. It is very tricky to judge the one because Milan have only lost 1 of the last 11 games, 3 defeats in total away from home. Always only failed to score once when they were playing away Milan, that 0-0 against Juventus. But you're right, they are on holiday, they are on the beach, they're gonna finish second, and the last game at home is against Salernitana, which they're expect to beat. They're gonna have a new manager, they're gonna have a new center forward. We still don't know who they are, what kind of mindset they're gonna go there. Is it gonna prevail the attacking of Milan, the defense of Torino? I think This is going to be more of a Torino game. Under 2.5 goals, 178.
Well, let's see if 𝐿𝐵, for instance, stays, no?
But 𝐿𝐵 should stay. I think 𝐿𝐵 should stay. But yeah, I mean, we still don't know. We still don't know who the manager is, and I think that's probably the most important question.
Well, games on Sunday. Let's talk about the relegation battle. Sassuolo Cagliari, very important one. This is a match ball for Cagliari, 3 points away from Sassuolo. Sorry, 3 points away from Frosinone. Sassuolo lost to Genoa despite scoring first, and Lazio away is the last game, so it's going to be very, very difficult for Sassuolo to stay in Serie A. Cagliari also, Danny, they still need the points, 1 point away from the bottom three. Luckily, they are playing Fiorentina at home in the last game, so this is the game they have to win.
Yes, absolutely. And they play Fiorentina home before Fiorentina goes to Athens to the Conference League, and Cagliari at home, we know they're strong. The permutation, if Sassuolo doesn't beat Cagliari, they need to hope that Frosinone loses against Monza. If Cagliari win and both Frosinone and Empoli lose, Cagliari are safe. Sassuolo have lost 31 points this season from an advantage position, more than any other team in Serie A. They are extremely fragile, of course, but based on the home form, they will be saved. You know, at home they got decent results, especially they beat Juventus and Inter. They have conceded 32 times, though, at home. Second worst defense, only 2 wins in 2024. Cagliari away, dreadful, only 1 away win, 1-0 against Empoli, 2 clean sheets away, conceded 10 goals in the last 3 away games, but they were tough games against Inter, Genoa, and Cagliari away. Always conceded against all the teams fighting for relegation away from home, apart from Empoli. So Cagliari probably going to let a goal in against Sassuolo, average 2 goals conceded away per game away from home. This is a high percentage, both teams to score. 67% of Cagliari game, both teams to score. 61% of Sassuolo games, both teams to score. The odds for both teams to score are not massive, both teams to score, and maybe a Cagliari to get at least a point. That could be an option. Asian handicap plus 0.5 for Cagliari, 170. If they do not lose, you win your stake.
Difficult to trust Sassuolo
difficult.
Unless they play against Inter, right, Danny?
Oh, yes. I mean, against Inter, it's easy. It's a field day. Yes, of course.
But, yeah, very close to being relegated. No one expected that at the beginning of the season. This is a must win for Sassuolo. Also, Cagliari needs at least a point and see what happens, or especially perhaps even to win, but the last match day, they have a home game against Fiorentina, could be easier for them. Another team involved in the relegation battle, Frosinone, traveling to the north of Italy to Monza. Frosinone, same points as Empoli. They were thrashed at home by Inter, but Danny, Monza are on holidays, winless in the last 7. I think we have Formula One nearby, so perhaps the players are more inclined to go and see Ferrari than playing this game, and Frosinone can go there and get the points.
I mean, obviously, bigger motivation for Frosinone here, but talking about Monza, they can finish as high as 10 in the table, which is basically what they did last season. They've been saved basically from 2 months. But yes, the results have been bad. No wins in 7, which is the worst streak in Serie A ever in the 2 seasons they have been. But they haven't totally given up. If you look at their balance, the record at home is very balanced. 6 wins, 6 defeats, 6 draws, which is very similar to what they did last season. So probably it's harsh to expect more from them. They've always scored in the last 4 games, Monza, and they scored in 8 of the last 9 in front of their fans. In fact, at the Brianteo at home, they've only failed to score 3 times, Monza. Frosinone, on the other hand, very unlucky not to score at least once against Inter. And you say, well, they lost 5-0. Believe me, it was not a 5-0 game. Frosinone could have equalized with 𝐿𝐵, should have scored in the second half with Brescianini. It was a decent game. The problem is that the defensive phase is so dodgy, so bad. 3rd worst defense in Serie A. And that's really what is letting them down. Because it's strange. Recently, they managed to keep it really tight. It was the first defeat after 6 good results. Frosinone, they always seemed very, very unbalanced. They got the 10th best attack of Serie A and the 3rd worst defense. They've only won 2 games since January. Never won away from home, Frosinone. So this is the last chance, really. Last game of the season away from home. Can they win it? The last game for Frosinone is at home against Udinese, which is going to be the decider for the relegation. Frosinone cannot be mathematically saved this weekend, but they could be mathematically relegated, I believe. Over 2.5 goals, 181.
Last game is at home against Udinese, so it's gonna be.
But I think in Frosinone are in danger of going down mathematically this weekend. Of course, if they lose, if Frosinone loses, they stay with 29 points. No, sorry, they can't mathematically go down this weekend because Frosinone has got 32. Empoli plays Udinese. So yes, I mean, they can go down, but of course, if they don't win or they don't at least pick a point, they give themselves very, very little chances of staying up.
Probably this Frosinone Udinese is going to be also key next week.
It is.
It's going to be key. The Udinese Frosinone that we are going to analyze
Udinese
right
Empoli.
now. Udinese Empoli. Empoli in the bottom 3, 32 points, same as Frosinone. Udinese still in danger, 33. They got a key win against Lecce. I'm talking about Udinese to stay away from the bottom 3 for these last 2 match days. Undefeated in the last 3 with the new manager, with Cannavaro. Empoli, Dani, no goals in the last 3 games. And last game is with Roma at home. Roma perhaps playing for the Champions League spot. So this is super difficult to.
It is super difficult for Empoli, who, yes, I mean, they are scoreless, lost 9 away games to 0, including all the last 5. But of these 5 away games they lost to 0, 4 of them were against top sides: Milan, Inter, Lazio, Atalanta. Last weekend against Lazio, they lost 2-0. They had a couple of chances. The other game they lost to 0 recently was at Lecce. They had a goal disallowed and lost at the end. So they also been slightly unlucky. 9 of the last 10 games for Empoli have been under. Too often, you just need a goal to beat them. They only scored 2 goals in the last 10 games. But this streak at some point is going to end. They're not going to end the league with no goals until now in the 26th of May. And probably this is the right time to back them to score at least 1. Because Udinese, yes, they are outside of the bottom 3. They got 5 points in the last 3 games. And, you know, they drew against Bologna. Of course, they drew against Udinese. And all those games have been under 2.5 goals. But Udinese at home this season have been abysmal. Only won 1 game at home and 10 draws. The good news is that Lucca is scoring again, 8 goals in Serie A for Lucca, which I think is a great achievement. First season in Serie A in a team that is struggling. A goal from Samardžić at Lecce. They were helped by the fact that Lecce were already saved. Udinese have scored in 5 of the last 6 games at the Friuli, only kept 3 home clean sheets. Now, Udinese can be mathematically saved if they win, of course, and Frosinone and Sassuolo lose. They should go for it. Empoli are desperate. I do love the over 2 goals, 171. Could be another draw for Udinese, 1-1. I think the goalless streak for Empoli is going to end over 2 goals, 171. If there are only 2 goals in the game, you get your money back.
Really, really interesting this fight to avoid relegation. We have Verona, Udinese, Cagliari, Frosinone, Empoli, and Sassuolo involved in this relegation battle. At 6 p.m. on Sunday, we have Inter Lazio. Inter already champions on holidays, but at least they got themselves a great win last weekend against Frosinone. This is going to be the end of the party at home. Lazio, Dani, with the change of manager, ending the season on a high. Even they could finish above Roma, always very important for Lazio. 5 wins and 1 draw in the last games.
Yes, it's definitely changed the fortunes since Tudor arrived. They got 16 points in the last 7 games, which is the same tally as Inter, and they could even qualify for the Champions League. Yes, you heard it right. Italy could have 6 teams in the Champions League. It sounds crazy, but these are the permutation. Okay, so for Lazio or for Roma to qualify into the Champions League and finish 6, they need, of course, to finish 6. So Lazio needs to go above Roma. And then they have to hope that Atalanta wins against Bayer Leverkusen and Atalanta doesn't finishes in the top 4. Because if Atalanta finishes in the top 4, Italy loses a place. It sounds crazy, I know, but Lazio got nothing to lose. They've already qualified at least for the Conference League. So they need to go into this game thinking the miracle, at least it is possible. Of course, Lazio are repeating last year pattern. So after they got knocked out last year from the Conference League, they won 10 out of the last 12 Serie A games and finished runner-up behind Napoli. Now they're repeating a similar pattern, but it has to be said that in the last month, they faced 6 teams that are in the bottom half of the table. So this is the real test for Lazio, playing a top side, which they haven't played really under Tudor, apart the first game against Juventus, which they managed to win. Inter, on the other hand, they are chasing records after records. If they win the last 2 games, they'll finish with 98 points, which is a club record. If they score 5 more goals, they will get another club record, 90 goals scored in Serie A. 1 more clean sheet, and they will equal the all-time record of 22 clean sheets. And let's not forget, Inter have already beaten Lazio twice this season, 2-0 at the Olimpico, 3-0 in Riyadh in the semi-final of the Supercoppa Italiana. Certainly, they're not going to play with the same mindset, but this is the last game of the season in front of the crowd. You could expect them to bring their A game. Look out for Lautaro Martinez to score. Lazio have only kept 3 clean sheets in the last 13 games on the road. Lautaro Martinez scored a Frosinone. We know he's a streaky striker. He does score goals in a row. He has scored in the last 2 consecutive matches in 6 occasions, in at least 2 consecutive matches in 6 occasions this season. And last season, he achieved this 10 times. So at least 10 times scoring 2 consecutive matches. He also has got 6 goals in 11 games against Lazio. I do fancy maybe Martinez to open the score, but under 2.75 goals, 189. I think Inter are going to do the job, and are going to do the job as they normally do by controlling and keeping it tight.
Okay, Danny, last game on Sunday is Roma-Genoa. Roma still with options to finish 5th, but they lost to Atalanta, so it's going to be difficult. We were mentioning some weeks ago that they had a very, very difficult schedule, and they weren't able to win the games, winless in 5, very close, of course, to give us a big surprise in the Europa League in Leverkusen, but they couldn't do it. So now they have to bounce back and get the points against Genoa, because it's very important to finish 6th, perhaps a ticket to the Champions League, and also still challenging for the 5th spot.
They need to finish above Lazio, simple as, to make sure that the end of the season is respectable, is decent. De Rossi has done a great job, but clearly Roma are tired. They're a little bit laggy, and having to recover so many points in the league and doing well in the Europa League is taking its toll. But it's a team that has got a good spirit. They almost beat Bayer Leverkusen. They were organized, solid. They don't give up easily. Against Atalanta, though, we saw some of the defensive frailties. They should have considered at least a couple more. But Roma still have the second best home attack, 37 goals scored, the same as Milan. Just 1 win in the last 5, as you mentioned. Since September, they only lost 2 home games against Inter and against Bologna. Genoa, careful. They are the trickiest customer at the moment in Serie A. Same goes for Monza, really. But Genoa, even more impressive because they're a newly promoted side. Just 1 defeat in the last 8 games for Genoa, 46 points in the table, which, by the way, is a record since 2014-2015. Only lost 7 away games from home, and the last one was 2-1 against Inter. But if you look at the last 10 trips for Genoa, that's the only defeat. They haven't lost many games in the last 2 months and a half. They only failed to score 1 in the last 5 games they played away, and recently drew against Milan, Juve, Napoli, Bologna. So really, they can be a matchup to Italy top teams. But what's more impressive of Genoa is that they don't get beaten heavily, especially on the road. When they played away, they've only lost one game by more than 1 goal margin, and that was against Atalanta at the beginning of the season, but only kept 3 away clean sheets, Genoa. So normally they do tend to concede. They score as well. Both to score, by the way, pays 205, and I'm going to leave it for my ACCA. I think this is a great odds for both to score. I love Asian handicap plus 1.25 for Genoa, which pays 175, and I play this bet a lot of time with Genoa, especially away, which means if they win, you win. If they draw, you win. If they lose by 1 goal margin, you still win half a stake, as this is an Asian line.
All right, Danny, 2 more games on Monday. Salernitana, Verona, very important for Verona. They are
Yes.
2 points away from Empoli. They lost the last home game when we expected them to win. So this is a must win. The last game is against Inter Milan, so they don't want to get all the points in that very last day. And of course, playing Salernitana when you are fighting for the lives is a good idea. It's a good option.
Well, ask Juventus, though, who managed to draw 1-1 against Salernitana last weekend, and Salernitana could have won it in the end. Salernitana have got an amazing record, if you look at it. Look, the last win for Salernitana was, of course, against Verona on 30 December. Since then, look at this streak. 4 defeats, 1 draw, 3 defeats, 1 draw, 3 defeats, 1 draw, 4 defeats, 1 draw. So now maybe there is a defeat after that, but that tells you how consistent they've been. It's very difficult to guess what they're going to do next, but credit to them because they've scored in 4 of the last 6, and that's remarkable for a team that knew they were going to go down anyway. They haven't been thrashed too many times at home. And if you look at the results, Salernitana results against the team fighting for relegation, they've always scored against Udinese, Fiorentina, Cagliari, and Sassuolo. All those games have ended with both to score. Yes, Verona have only won 2 games away from home. The very first one against Empoli and against Lecce, both 1-0, both slightly lucky. Scored Verona in 3 of the last 4 away games. Also, Verona never been thrashed away from home, has to be said. Lost by more than 1 goal just in 1 occasion when they lost 3-1 to Sassuolo. You mentioned, yes, last game is Verona-Inter. Now, Verona could be saved on Monday if Sassuolo, Frosinone, and Empoli all fail to win and they draw against Salernitana. In that case, Verona is saved, and I think playing on Monday is a big advantage for the 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐺𝐸. 56% of both sides game have ended with both to score yes. So both to score yes is probably the way to go. I love the Salernitana Asian handicap plus 0.75, 191. As I said, the draw might be enough for Verona. Salernitana normally don't get thrashed against fellow stragglers at home. If they lose by 1 goal margin, you only lose half a stake.
Key game, this one for Verona. And on Monday, we have another game, nothing on stake here. Bologna, Juventus. Well, the 3rd spot, actually, because both teams
or fourth. Yeah. Or 5th, because Atalanta have got that game in hand, potentially could go to 66 points. And by the way, if you're wondering when that game is going to be played, it's going to be played on the 3rd of June. So after the season ends, to give Atalanta and Fiorentina the opportunity to play the competition, the European final, relaxed. But you can imagine the climate and the rhythm of that game on the 3rd of June with Atalanta probably already secure in the Champions League. But, you know, destiny in the hands. Atalanta can choose to finish 3rd, 4th, 5th. Well, depends.
Well, doesn't make sense, no, to play the postponed game when the season is over. But well, for this Monday game, Danny, I guess it's going to be kind of a party in the Dallara. The first time Bologna is going to play Champions League. They secured their spot last week. Credit to Thiago Motta, credit to them. They've been doing an amazing season, undefeated in the last 8, for instance, beat Napoli 2-0. And Juve, they won a title. So this is always very important. On Wednesday, they beat Atalanta in the Coppa Italia final. Of course, their Serie A season has not been great, we can say, but the team is qualified for the Champions League. At least this is the less they can do. Well, Danny, Bologna-Juve, last game of this match day.
Bologna returning to the European top competition after more than 60 years, because they played it once. They won the Scudetto in 64, and that's a season as good as that one, really. But yes, of course, never played in the Champions League. Bologna only one defeat in the last 16 against Inter, a team that plays well. Everyone knows what to do, is courageous, they take risks, and they are exciting to watch. Of course, Italy's best team after Inter, of course. This is going to be a party atmosphere, and yeah, still don't know whether Thiago Motta is going to stay next season. 𝐜𝐿𝐽𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐜𝐭𝐚𝐲, Bologna top goal scorer, is out for the season. He picked up a bad injury. Even the Euros might be a risk. And, you know, this is going to be interesting to see how they approach it, really, because they've got nothing to play for. But will they want to finish above Juventus? I think there's a big motivation for Bologna. There is a big rivalry between those two clubs. For Juve, having won the Coppa Italia is not enough, doesn't save the season. It's been below par. They haven't played in Europe this year. You would have expected to do better than last season. They need to win both the last two games against Bologna and Monza to have one more point in the table compared to last year. And that tells you how badly they've done so far, as I said, without playing in Europe. But, you know, Allegri shows you, demonstrate you, he can still win you a single game, a final, a tight game. It's very difficult, I think, from now on, from this season on, when Allegri is going to leave Juve, for any other top club in Italy or in Europe to hire him, really, because I think he showed the way he set up the team and the way he gets the player to play. He doesn't cut through. It's very difficult these days to win a league playing that way, because as we were talking before, now it is proven, it is demonstrated, you can win by playing well. Juve only 15 points in the last 15 games in the Serie A. They only won 2 of them. The season has really fallen off the cliff. Even their defensive record, the good defensive and clean sheet record, is no longer there. I fancy Bologna on the Asian handicap 0 here, 177. Probably is it's an under 2.5 goals, because if you look at the over 2.5 stats, is well below 50% for both sides. It could be a draw, it could be an under, maybe a 1-0 win for Juve. Asian handicap 0 for the hosts.
Okay, Danny, well, this is it. Last match day will be next week. Italian teams in the Europa League final, in the conference final. We have already a Coppa Italia winner, Juve, a Serie A winner. Inter, let's go with your safe bet.
First, for the Friday game, the first one, Fiorentina, Napoli, both teams to score yes, 164.
And the ACCA?
3 selections, very high odds. Torino, Asian handicap 0. Sassuolo, Cagliari, over 2.5 goals. Roma, Genoa, both teams to score, total odds 8.37.
Thank you, Danny. See you next week for the final day in Serie A. I'm sure there are still many things to be decided. Stay tuned, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ciao.